Well, howdy, folks, and welcome to another fantastic casual convo. As always, they're exciting, they're thrilling. This one is a ripper. I've got a young bloke on board, which is rare because usually for my casual convos, I'm dragging in all these masters rowers, and I'm really excited to actually have a younger person. I'm going to do more of that in the future, involved in talking about their experiences in rowing. But not only that, what I really love is that he's a coxswain as well. Sam Lincoln from Richmond Rowing Club, and should I say, Rowing Victoria Coxswain of the Year. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for the introduction, Guy. Happy to be here. Yeah, definitely probably one of your younger guests on the show.
Oh, absolutely. But as I said, I'm certainly not going to finish up on this because I think the idea is, from the whole point of my podcast is to try and help give some ideas, thoughts, education, whatever you like. But I do want to start off on one thing. Welcome back from Dimboola.
Yes, Dimboola. Busy weekend. Many adventures. We had a few problems, few snags on the way. But I think on the whole it was pretty good trip. Obviously got my first win actually holding some oars, so
yeah, I saw that. I'm going to come back to that later, but I'm not really interested in the rowing side of it. How'd the rest of it go at Dimboola?
Rest of it, pretty typical Dimboola. A lot of people hungover and drunk. In the tradition.
Rowing drunk. You rowed hungover. That's typical. But drunk. Did you enjoy? Is this your first Dimboola?
No, this was my second one. So I went last year mainly coaching. This was my first time doing head of the Wimmera though, so that was an experience, especially getting around the.
That's 6K, is that right?
Yeah, 6K. So that was my first time doing the head of the Wimmera, and of course got to experience that massive pain in the arse bend. Yep.
I imagine it's a skinny river, is it? I don't know. I've not done it.
It's really narrow. I'm glad that my crew was the first one off.
Yep.
So made a big difference because didn't have to worry about any overtaking manoeuvres or anything like that, which was good.
Look, the overtaking manoeuvres on head racing is part of the fun, though, isn't it?
I mean, Head of the Yarra had some fun with it last year.
Absolutely. And that's why I've involved in watching the boat race, the Cambridge Oxford boat race, because what I love about that, and we'll come back to the topic I want to discuss with you. What I love about that is the coxswains and the aggression of the coxswains, and we don't have the luxury of seeing that too often. And head racing gives the opportunity for coxswains to go a little bit head to head and have a little bit of a battle, as long as the rowers are up to it, of course. Do you enjoy a little bit of a tangle along the river?
There was a tangle in the sea double.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's different. You don't want that. There's no cost.
I've had my fair share of tangles throughout. Certainly this year, big one for me, head of the Barwon. We had a Karaya crew and a Yarra Yarra crew in front of us. And the two of them started tangling each other, and I had to try and find a gap for both of them. Slot straight through.
Yeah.
So it. I mean, in the end, you gotta almost plan ahead, but also read what the other coxers are doing in that moment, because that's the hard part. Figuring out what is that other cox doing. That reading minds is basically, I'd say, is part of it.
What might they do? It's not like well, I suppose it might be like a horse, and if you go to the Melbourne Cup only a week ago, and the jockeys on those horses are not dissimilar to a coxswain, and you're trying to navigate your way through and trying to find a path and the quickest, easiest, and at the same time keeping your horse focused and motivated, or whatever they do. But it's a similar sort of beast. But it's also, I think that's part of the fun. That's what I enjoy about it, is that excitement of the unknowing about others. down a 1K or a 2K, well, all you have to do is yell and scream for, I don't know, 3, 4, 6, 7 minutes, whatever it might be. But what I wanted to chat to you about, Sam, is I noticed you on the river last year, and that's why we sort of got communicating and chatting, because you're always in every second boat I saw, and I think you're with Richmond, and you're in boats with Yarra Yarra, and I think other clubs as well, and thought, oh, this bloke's getting around, this is good, he's motivated, he's keen. But what really struck me is at Bendigo this year, and you were rowing a single in the C single, and obviously you will remember this. You went across the finish line, and your excitement, it looked like you'd won the Henley Royal Regatta, right? Now, I say this with absolute due respect, because I love that motivation, that fire in the belly about wanting to, get out there and have a crack and really have a go. Then I realised there was actually a heat that you just won.
Yeah.
And you were that fired up that you won a heat. And that actually really interested me even more, because I'm the same, Sam. I'm exactly the same. I just get so excited by anything. Who gives a shit if it's a heat, a semi, or whatever? A win's a win. And then I've since seen, obviously, you've done a little bit more of the rowing side of it. Now, I know I'm going on a little bit here. I'll come back to what I want to talk about. But many years ago, because I was always a rower up until only a few years ago and became a coxswain, and I remember saying to a bloke called Michael Sim, now you won't know Michael Sim, but you might know of his son Stuart Sim.
Yeah, that definitely rings a bell there.
Yeah, it would ring a bell. So Stuart Sim is the third generation, and Mike, he will actually listen to this podcast. So Mike, I apologise if I got this wrong, but Stuart Sim will be the third generation of the Sim family that had actually coxed an Australian crew. It was Mike's father originally, then Mike, and then Stuart. And I apologise if Stuart's listening in and I'm wrong as well, but I'm pretty sure I'm right on that. And I remember saying to Mike when I was younger as a rower, and I said, Mike, how the hell do you accept being a cox? Well, don't you feel like embarrassed rowing? And he goes, oh no, the best thing I do is I get in a single scull and I go and beat them. And that really resonated for me, because coxers can do that. And Sam, you're starting to do that. You're starting to row, and you're starting to show that you actually know a little bit more about it than sitting in the seat. Again, I've gone on for about 5 minutes down a tangent. But what I want to discuss with you today is motivation and discipline. And are they the same thing? What do you think about that? Motivation and discipline, the same thing or separate? And what's important? I
think it's very much they're separate, but they have overlapping properties. So it's almost like they're two separate. It's a they're a Venn diagram, and you've got the slight overlap, and then you've got what's different about them. Because I think certainly motivation. You need motivation to be disciplined, and I think being disciplined and having that level of commitment is what provides the motivation. So I don't think they're the same, but I think they work off each other a lot. It's definitely in my case, especially not just with picking up rowing, but I've started, especially over the last 2 years, I've been trying to get my coxing to really high effective level. I could be motivated to do that, I was motivated back when I was at school to do it, but the discipline, I would argue, just wasn't there. I wouldn't be committing to as many sessions, or I'd go out with crews that maybe didn't know too much about coxing, so I wasn't getting the best feedback about it and things like that. So but also things working out for coxers, what I do to make sure I stay on weight and things like that. It's things like making sure I have time where I can put in the effort, so I can do things so I'm doing a bike, I have it scheduled in, I'm doing it the right amount of work per week, I'm managing it effectively. I think I have to be motivated to do that, but I need the discipline to make keep doing that.
Yeah.
Because let's just say I have 3 weeks. If I have 3 weeks off, that could still be I'm keen, I'm motivated, I want to do it. But I'm not putting the work in, so the discipline's not there. So yeah, that's my view. That's my take on it.
Yeah, sure. No, that makes complete sense, and I like the way you said the Venn diagram. That's absolutely spot on. The two are definitely intertwined. You can have discipline without motivation, and you can have motivation without discipline, in my view. But motivation without discipline is very short-lived.
Yeah. So, well, because it works on the way I think about it, it works on how any sort of response is like. There will be times where, and I think definitely this season, last season, certainly have found times where you're not fully enjoying it because it's hard work. It's been a rough week. You've been working. You've had crazy amount of work or things like that. But if the discipline allows you to go, you know what? Let's keep it separate. Let's make it its own thing, which means you maybe rather than saying, all right, I was going to do like a 20k bike or something like that. All right, let's go 15, just a little bit less, and then bounce back next week. Make it up a week later. Make it up in the next one.
Do you do that?
Occasion, if at work I've had a really long week with work, so
yep.
sometimes I have to drive miles away and it's a crazy week, and
yep.
especially because my work, we're under time crunches for the week. If it's a short week, gone past where
yep.
frantic. Sometimes you go with, you gotta know what's the right time to be doing, say, the 20Ks over, say, 15 or 25 and things like that. So you're working out, okay, next week's pretty light in terms of work. Let's recoup from the week before.
So, Sam, as you know, I'm a little bit older than you.
Yeah.
I've been around 56 years. I've been doing sport for a great deal of time. And it's literally only this year that I've adopted the mindset that you're now talking about.
Yeah.
And I'm not bullshitting you here.
Yeah.
I'm actually speaking openly. I've always just been no, you must. Whereas now I've got lots of injury issues going on. We won't go into that. And I'm talking about my triathlon training. Most people listening to this know that's my main sport. And I'm literally limping around as we speak and training on a stress fractured hip and all sorts of things. But the point being is that I've got the mindset now of actually adopting what you're saying, is that, if you're not up to it, if it's not working, we can pull it back a little bit and catch up a bit later. I actually do agree that is the right thing to do, and it's taking me 56 years to work that out. Well, not 56, obviously I didn't do much for the first 12 years. But that's a very mature approach. I admire what you've just said there. Well done. Because that's overcoming your potential concern about your discipline. Yet obviously then bounce back and push on beyond that when you're in a position of time, which is obviously a massive factor in rowing. Sidetracking just briefly, at Richmond, where you spend most of your time, do you train in the mornings or the afternoons?
So Richmond, the squads normally train in the afternoon, so we're normally 6 p.m. training. So there's 2 squads. We've got a senior squad and an inter squad, and I'm in both. So I row in the inter squad, I cox the senior squad.
Yep.
So it means, I'm there lots of afternoons. If I'm not in a boat, I'm probably on a bike, like on the erg bike or something like that.
Yep.
And sometimes there are days where I have to take off occasionally. Sometimes I go with, all right, this afternoon's crazy, let's do the morning or something like that. Sometimes just to add a bit of variety so it's not going crazy. And yeah, but mainly the whole squad is there on an afternoon.
Well, I'm with you because mornings to me non-existent and pointless. I just can't do them. Yeah, definitely afternoons work better. I really struggle in the morning, so that's a bonus. So if you come back to this motivation conversation, how do you? Okay, let's go back. Let's use a real example. And for those listening, who've listened to these before, this is unscripted, so I'm just going off the cuff. I'm just thinking as I'm talking. So if we go back a few weeks ago to Head of the Goulburn, you coxed Head of the Goulburn, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. Actually, I do want to ask one little thing here. What did you think of the course? This is not a trick question. I want an honest answer. What did you think of the course? Not the course, but the layout of the course. Could you work it out?
What I looked at on the map.
Answer, Sam.
No, this is what I'm going with. It's like what I looked at on the map versus what was presented in front of me did not match. I did it, I did it last year as well. And last year I got a penalty because an umpire vote was actually
I know exactly
course.
Where you went wrong. I ended up managing to get a win because of people going wrong in that area.
Yeah, so I got a penalty for that. Still won, but it was, I was really, it was confusingly marked. I think, if I recall correctly as well, looking at the, Mercantile had 2 Cox tours and both of them got 30-second penalties or something like that. So, I think the big thing is the number of penalties indicate the course was flawed, as well as the number. Do
you think there's another possibility that the coxswains weren't paying attention or investing any time in looking at the course map, understanding the course, and then maybe even asking questions of the umpires beforehand to make sure that they had it right? Now, this is a bit of a leading thing that I'm saying here because I thought it was fine, and the year before was fine. The thing that I'm all about is, again, with a triathlon background, is there's one thing in triathlon. It's the athlete's responsibility to know the course, right? And if you go off course, bad luck, mate. You've got it wrong. And so I adopt that a little bit in rowing as well. And with these head races, I love those challenges because that's what makes the difference and gives coxers an opportunity to, hone their craft, if you like. And so that you can say, well, we got around, and, well, I saw that. Yes, it didn't look like, and you're right, the map didn't actually look like exactly how the course was laid out, but that was only because of these red buoys that got a little bit confusing because they're a little bit semicircular, which in hindsight was fantastic. It was very well done because you didn't really need it. You could actually go around that corner.
Yeah.
But because that wasn't necessarily on the map, the map, it was a little bit confusing coming into. But I do like that. I do like those challenges because that's what, we can just sit in a boat and yell at people if we want, but if we have another job to do, which is navigate something that's a bit tricky, I think that's more exciting.
Oh, it 100% is. I love the head races because, I love the head races because it shows not just which cox can motivate, it's which cox can multitask, and I'm sure you'd agree. Even in a straight line race, you're multitasking. You're not just sitting there saying row harder. You're looking, what are they doing? What's the crew next to me doing?
Yeah.
Like, where's the wind coming from? Because you want to be as on the rudder or as little as possible. So, I think especially with this course, it first of all shows which cox can actually do the multitasking element of coxing really well. Especially like managing steering while managing a crew, while managing what a crew maybe 500 meters behind or 500 meters ahead are, seeing what they're doing. I think the thing is with the course, I kind of knew what I was doing because, yes, with the map, but I read that any red buoys keep to your bow side. Correct, it was actually, it was listed on the program.
Yeah.
That is what surprised me. And a lot of the penalties, and a lot of people I knew who were confused, they were in coxless quads.
Yeah, all the coxless ones all went pear-shaped.
Yeah.
But there's a moral to that story, though, Sam.
Yeah.
If you don't have a cox, what's going to happen?
You're going to stick. Yeah, although I know
I actually think that's quite funny.
Yeah. I know a few people who were steering them, and of course we know, and of course I know their tendencies for misadventures on the Yarra, so didn't surprise me that much. No, but it was, I think the biggest one that got me with the, like, looking at the penalties and things like that was the fact that both mercantile fours, which means both of them did the exact same thing.
Yep.
And there was an umpire there yelling as well, saying...
I think, I don't want to... Sorry to interrupt there. I certainly, this podcast is never about having a go at anyone or pointing out criticism. But I think the umpire yelling didn't help the situation because I know I'm on course and I'm being yelled at, and luckily enough I've got the confidence to say I'm on course, bugger off, so to speak. But if you're a junior or a younger, I'm not saying yourself, Sam, but you might be a little bit intimidated going, hang on, what am I doing wrong? And to be fair, I'm looking around like there's no tomorrow, and I'm losing focus on my crew because I'm looking around the course going, what am I missing? Because the umpire's yelling at me.
Yeah.
That's old school stuff, though.
Yeah. I mean, as probably my coaches know, I'm not afraid sometimes to challenge an umpire. So, especially, but I do get it. It's like, I'm very clearly fine. You don't need to tell me that I'm doing something because I'm very clearly in the ride. Like, I had the boys I was similar to you on that. He was yelling at me. Boys on bow side. I was miles away. I saw the other two boats in front of me doing the exact same thing. Yeah. And I was like, why are you going off at me? We're fine. Yeah. So I literally just gave him a thumb up as he was talking, and he did shut up.
Look, to the umpire's defence, the only thing I can think that was possibly happening is based on where they were, literally on the course, on the inside of these buoys, they actually couldn't get a visual as to where we were going as crews. And so what they were doing is by default just making sure we knew, and the only way they can do that is to yell out, right? So I think that, maybe that's what was going on there.
Yeah.
But it's got to be confusing. But anyway.
But look, at the end of the day, that I think they're making do with what they've got at Goulburn.
Of course.
It's unfortunate and good. Like, good news is Rowing Victoria announced next year it's back to the Bilk race, so we're racing down.
Oh, it is back next year. Is that official?
I don't think it's fully official, but it was in Rowing Victoria's recent post about it.
Nice.
Yeah, but so at the end of the day, they had to make do with what the situation they were given. They still get a huge amount of entries. I think, like, I was in Cox in the female Masters Day. Yeah.
I liked it. Oh, it was great.
Yeah. We even had a crew from interstate come down to row it.
Yeah.
So, by no means was it a bad regatta. They're making do with what they've got.
I think it was a successful and good regatta. Yes, there's comments of this and that, but hey, any regatta that you turn up and compete in is always a good one in my view.
Exactly.
On the back of head regattas, we've got two big ones coming up. Obviously, Melbourne Head next week, and then the big one the week after.
Yeah.
I assume you're driving a few boats in the coming regattas.
So Melbourne Head, I've got 2, maybe 3 crews definitely locked in.
Yep.
And Head of the Yarra, I'm doing it twice, so I've got
you're going to go down and shoot back up to do a second run.
Yeah, so I'm doing it twice, so so Melbourne Head, obviously very easy one to do many races.
Yeah.
Especially being based...
Well, when you're based in the city, try being in Hawthorn.
Yeah, when you're based in the city, very easy. row up to the start line, race, get out of the boat, get in another one. It's a pretty quick.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to it, especially I'm going down in the men's club 8.
Yep.
Going down with the female Masters 8 that I coxed at Goulburn.
Yep.
So those two definitely locked in. Probably there'll be a male Masters 8 somewhere, and probably a Club 4.
Right.
So yeah, we'll see what eventuates. My coach was asking, what do you want to do? I said, look, these are the 2 races I'm locked in.
Yep.
Put whatever's around these.
What about a single yourself, Sam?
I've spent 8 months trying to get my score fixed from Rowing Victoria because I was listed as A grade for a while.
Well, your age kills you.
Yeah, so I was asking very, very nicely to fix my score, and if I was to race Melbourne Head, my score would go back to the...
It's easy to fix your score.
Yeah.
Just keep losing.
Yeah.
If you look at my rowing scores, they're horrific. Because I've done so many races and very few victories.
Yeah. It was, just keep losing's an answer. If I went into A grade, I'd lose very quickly, so no doubts there. But
actually, it's funny you say that, and I'm just going to sidetrack for a brief second. There was an opportunity for a guaranteed win at Melbourne Head in Open this year, and for the last 4 years, there's not been any entries into the lightweight pair.
I know, and I've got my doubles partner. We were joking maybe we should do the pair because
I would have dragged you out of that because I would have said, how about 2 Coxswains go and have a paddle?
He's also a Cox, that's why.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Oh God, okay. But the problem is it'd kill your grade score.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you need to worry about grade score, whereas I don't need to worry about.
Yeah, exactly. Where he's old enough for masters, I'm not, so I am forced into graded rowing for at least another 4 years. So we've got to be patient on that.
Yep.
But yeah,
I prefer grade, to be honest.
It is grade is.
It's interesting. It's enjoyable. All sorts of different age groups and so forth come into play. Whereas masters are just masters and it's handicaps.
Yeah.
The handicap system, mind you, I think is spot on. But but the grade racing is better. You all start, you all finish, and the only problem is you might have to do bloody semi-finals or heats and finals and that sort of thing.
Yeah. So the graded is the whole reason why I went from Yarra to Richmond was the graded. Lots of masters at Yarra, as I'm sure you know.
Yes.
They do a lot, and I've still coxed them at Masters Regattas, so I'm still present and around there. But I wanted to do the graded racing, and first year with Richmond, coxed the A grade quad at state champions to a win.
Oh, nice.
So that was really really enjoyable first year, doing proper graded racing and going through to be a state champion in A grade, which was especially at Ballarat in those conditions. It was really windy and it was a lot of fun.
Oh, nice. So let's just, before we finish off, because we've been rabbiting it on and people will drop off listening to all this once we put it all together, but motivation or discipline, where, if I'm to say to you, out of 10, what is more important? Not what is more important, rate one of the two out of 10. Does that make sense, what I'm asking?
Yes, you want me to rate both of them?
Okay, so motivation out of 10, where does it sit? And you've only got, both of them are out of 10, so you've only got 10 points to deal with.
Okay, so...
That's tricky, isn't it?
Yeah, so I'd say it's definitely not 5 and 5. It's not...
No.
You need one greater than the other, and I think it entirely depends on what you want to do. if you wanted to be, let's just go in the rowing sense that you wanted to only be a social rower, right? The discipline could go lower, but you need the motivation to go. I think it changes with each person's case. I think in my personal case, for what I want to do, I'd say you put probably it'd be more discipline as a 6.5 around there,
yep.
And then
yep.
motivation would be your 4, 3.5 there.
Yeah, pretty much what I would have.
Yeah,
pretty much where I would have gone with. Yeah, it's spot on.
Yeah, but again, I think it depends on what you want to get out of it. Because I think if you're here for a fun time, things like that, you need much more motivation than discipline if you're here for a fun time and a good time. But if you're there to be I think high performance athletes are the ones that need the most balance between them.
Oh, I would have. You know what? I would have actually gone a little bit the other way.
A little bit the other way.
Yeah, I would have gone more, on the massive end of discipline.
Okay.
Yeah. And the reason I say that, and this is coming back to, I know a lot of professional triathletes, ex-professional triathletes, and they do massive workloads. And it's the discipline, I think, that gets them through. The motivation is the race day, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we all participate in sport as an amateur or a professional because we like race day, right? I think. Maybe I'm losing track of that, and I know others probably disagree on that. But I should come back to the point you just mentioned that I actually jotted down, as you said it, social rower. Social rowers detract from what I've just said, and social rowing is fantastic and obviously a massive factor. And there is a massive difference between social rowers and competitive rowers. I just, for the life of me, and I hope I don't offend anyone here, I for the life of me don't understand why on earth you do that for fun. Does that make sense?
No, I kind of get it, because it's I picked up, I started single sculling this year.
Yeah.
And I was like, when I was working in the scull, I'm like, there are people who do this just for fun. Do laps of the Yarra just for fun. Yeah. With no, no sort of goal in it. No. And for me, personally, that's really boring. Like you said, the motivation's race day.
Absolutely.
So when I was when I did it, the sculling, when I was doing sculling, I was like, all right, I'm going to do the winter sculling. And I did sculls head of the Yarra and everything and that. So that created my motivation, like you said. And so it meant now the Ks I was doing, it was actually for something. So I was going out and doing practice rows and trying to do race starts. Keep trying. But yeah, I think that's race day. Like you said, race day definitely drives the motivation. For me, in the coxing sense, especially, the motivation for me is head. I'm looking. I know Melbourne heads the next regatta. I'm looking head of the Yarra. So it's what do I need to be able? What is my motivation for head of the Yarra? And it's right, I've got these crews. I need to go race with them. I need to go race. I want to do head of the Yarra. Okay, now I've got a crew, and that creates the discipline of, okay, I need to go to at least 2 head races or something with them. So with one crew I've done Goulburn and Barwon. With the other crew I did saltwater with half the crew in one bracket, half the crew in the other. So I understood that, and then I'm doing Melbourne head with them. So I think, the motive, and it goes back to what I was saying earlier, where they're very intertwined, motivation and discipline.
Yeah.
You need the motivation to create the discipline, and that's what's creating the discipline for me to then go on to do really well for head the Yarra. Hopefully do really well for head
hopefully
the Yarra.
do well.
Yeah.
Hopefully do well. Yeah. So, out of left of centre. So I've always had a view, again, like I was saying about with Mike Sim and his comments about get in the single and beat the guys. That's how you get respect, so to speak. What physical training do you do outside of sitting in the boat and outside of you having your sculling?
So, and this is something that it's a problem that I think plagues most coxers, especially those really keen to cox, is finding the time to do extra.
Yeah.
So the big one I've been using is whenever the rowers are doing gym.
Yep.
So on Monday nights they do their gym. I'm on the bike.
So that's where I was leading to. You've led perfectly into that. So you're actually doing work while they're doing work.
Yeah, and even though it's not the same work and not necessarily the same intensity, I was talking to some of the rowers there, and they were like, the fact that you're here sitting on the bike doing something says to us, okay, he's doing something. Like our cox, the guy who sits there, is doing something.
Yeah,
we better do something.
And I think that's a great message to send, because the thing that I think is important, what I love about seeing you rowing now as well, is that when you're sitting in the coxswain seat and you're yelling at them, or you're trying to give instructions or do something, it's coming from a place of knowledge. And I don't mean knowledge as in the textbook, I mean knowledge is in the practice, because you've been there, whether it might be, well, now you're rowing, you can feel that, but whether it might be on a bike or whatever, you still understand what it's like when you have to dig deep. And I think that gives an enormous amount of credibility, and I don't think anyone could cox if they don't really understand what the crew is going through.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely... So my coach at Richmond, she was saying before I started rowing, I had impressive boat feels. But after I started rowing, it was almost like you've unlocked another level of that.
Yeah.
And I was able to go from feeling just like, oh yeah, I can tell they're not finishing the stroke properly, to I can tell where they're not finishing. Like, I can tell exactly what's going on. In fact, during Head of the Wimmer today, in the men's Masters 8, I could feel the boat literally just shimmering side to side. And I could feel it was just because their side, like, it was fractions of a second. I'm talking like less than half a second.
Yeah.
Their blade was just coming out just a little bit too early.
Yep.
And I made the call saying, bow side, a little longer, just a little bit longer, and the boat immediately just sat right up, and it was like we just found it. It's like we found another gear.
Yeah.
And the boat just lifted, and sat really level and really flat. We got off the water, and Nick Inglis, which I'm sure you know very well.
Of course I do.
Yes. He was like, that call you made for the bow side is just to draw through. Like, that was
was that the crew? Was that an 8? Sorry,
that was an 8. Yeah.
So you got your comeuppance on, I think Yarra beat you yesterday. Powerhouse beat that crew yesterday, didn't they?
Yes, they did. Powerhouse beat that crew yesterday. But then
I was looking at that going, what the hell's happened?
No, you didn't see the fit. Literally, so we had to wait 18 seconds at the start.
Okay, Sam.
Yeah.
Let me tell you one thing. Never use excuses.
I'm not about to use any...
No, you pulled up handicap straight away.
Yeah.
Not interested in excuses. I'll put up anyone on that. What about the handicap? The handicap is the handicap.
No, this is not using the handicap. This is just setting the story, because you had to be there.
All right. Okay.
And it was literally in the last 100 meters, just seat for seat for seat for seat. Yeah. I got right on the cox, and I heard the bell ring, and I was like, fuck.
You ran out of room.
Yeah. So, no, it was just like, we were, there was things in that race that we all agreed, we could have done this a little bit better, or this a little bit better. That would have been, I think in the end somebody said it was literally a bow ball that they got us by. Oh, well. So it was like...
No time's taken it, didn't it?
Yeah, but exactly. Yeah, no times were taken, which I'm really annoyed about. I wanted to see the times. But yeah, it was. I mean, yeah, I think as well going on that it's like when the whole crew can accept. No one makes an excuse, but they go like, "Oh, didn't do this quite right, or I didn't call this kind of thing. And then it's like, yeah, cool. We learn, move on. Let's go to the next race. And we took what we learned into Head of the Wimmera, which we then won by 30 seconds. So against, I think it was the same crew minus one member because they went from an H to a G. If I recall.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, learning experiences.
All part of the fun. Now, we're going to have to wind this up. I'd love to chat for another 20 minutes. We're going to have to do this again another time.
Yeah, no problem.
On other topics as well, I reckon. In fact, I've got an idea straight away. I want to get you chatting with a few other Coxswains as well. But anyway, for the purposes of now, I need to wind up because people will lose interest. They won't be listening any longer because we'll just keep talking about ourselves the next 2 hours, and that's all exciting. But I really appreciate you joining me on this podcast. Best of luck for Melbourne Head and Head of the Yarra. Hopefully I'm not competing in a crew against you because then I don't wish you any luck whatsoever. That's not true. That's not true. But best of luck for the coming season ahead of the straight line racing, which is not as near exciting for us Coxswains, is it? But it's still exciting. But I enjoy this side of the season where we get to do some fun stuff. I'm looking forward to Saturday, Melbourne Head. I'm looking forward to a bit of oar clashing. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. But thanks, Sam. I really appreciate you joining me, and best of luck. And also, good luck with your rowing career as well.
No worries. Thank you very much for having me.
No problem at all. It's been great.